Welcome to my haunted castle. Today we're venturing into the shadowy world of Gothic horror with 13 film recommendations featuring terrors like ghosts, vampires, and werewolves. If you find yourself craving haunting atmosphere on a dark and stormy night, such as this, then these films are exactly what you need. I am your host, Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and let us begin.
At midnight, all sorts of evil spirits are set loose. People disappear without a trace.
Nosferatu the Vampyre.
Nosferatu the Vampyre from 1979. A real estate agent leaves behind his beautiful wife to go to Transylvania to visit the mysterious Count Dracula and formalize the purchase of a property in Wismar. Nosferatu has been very much in the zeitgeist because of the recent Robert Eggers remake of the 1922 classic, but this is actually the first remake and is perhaps the most chilling and haunting of the three. Because of Dracula falling into the public domain by 1979, this was able to be a closer Dracula adaptation than the original silent classic was, itself an unauthorized adaptation that tried and failed to get away with ripping off Stoker. So in this one, they use the actual Dracula names, unlike Count Orlok and such like that in the original and the Robert Eggers one. Across the board, the cast is fantastic, and I have to shout out Klaus Kinski as Dracula, himself a terrifying person in real life, but he definitely makes for, I think, the creepiest version of Dracula ever. Not necessarily the best, but if I had to spend time with any Dracula, this is the one where I think I would be the most desperate to get away from him as fast as possible. He is like a sad, pathetic, decaying creature just rotting in the Carpathian Mountains. He feels so authentic as that. Just gives me the creeps. The whole atmosphere of the film is fantastic. It's candlelit, decaying castle. There are a lot of wordless sequences that use silence for oppressive mood. While this is not a silent film like the original, in fact, you can watch it in either German or English, he really uses quiet, wordless scenes to set such a mood. In fact, the whole film opens with creepy shots of statues to Gregorian chant music. Man, it is just so eerie and the perfect way to set the mood for your Gothic movie night.
Nanny is convinced that Mother comes back here every night. There are spirits in this house.
Haunted from 1995. A professor who exposes fraud spiritualists and mediums is invited to Edinburgh to resolve the fear of hauntings within its secretive family. Soon after arriving in the mansion, he begins to doubt his own senses as he witnesses strange phenomena and unsettling behavior among the residents. This is a Gothic period piece haunted house film that it seems like has just fallen off the face of the earth. It's very difficult to get a hold of, and nobody ever talks about it except some of you in my comment section, and the comments on this channel are the reason I even found out this movie existed, so I had to check it out for myself. You guys seem to think it was up my alley, and it really, really is. It is just such a classic ghosts in a mansion movie with great atmosphere and period recreation. I love the cast in here, starring Aidan Quinn, and for my money, he's never been better. I thought he was really engaging as a skeptical man who has to find out that there are things that go bump in the night. And Kate Beckinsale, even though she's not normally talked about as a truly great actress, I thought was terrific here as the seemingly perfect dream girl that he finds at this mansion. I mean, Kate Beckinsale can certainly pull that off. She's absolutely stunning, incredibly charming. Even when you find out there's much more going on than you thought. This film takes some wild turns. There are some really uncomfortable things that happen. And at some points I was like, are we ever going to address the super weird stuff going on over here? Like, there are a lot of scenes where I felt like someone was going to suddenly wake up and realize it was all a dream, and most of the time that doesn't happen. There's just some weird stuff. But Haunted is a genuinely intriguing mystery with Gothic and very autumnal atmosphere to it. While it's a little heavier on the melodrama than the horror, I personally didn't really mind that at all. It is a genuine haunted house film, and I did really enjoy it.
It's too late. She's turning.
I'm turning into something. I have to kill him.
Ginger snaps back the Beginning from 2004. This prequel to the original Ginger Snaps is set in 19th century Canada and follows the Fitzgerald sisters' ancestors, Bridget and Ginger, who take refuge in a trader's fort which has been decimated by savage werewolves. I definitely am a big fan of the original Ginger Snaps. It's such a great piece of 2000s teen horror and actually a really good werewolf story. And it's so interesting that they took the third film in the series in this direction. It is a very similar story to the first Ginger Snaps. They just completely changed the setting, and this setting is very much my thing. The historical aesthetic is very well done, and I love the cold winter atmosphere in the wilderness, where an isolated group of people are helpless against the oppressive surrounding nature, which, yes, does include a massive epidemic of werewolves. It's very much like a Gothic Western. It has kind of a Western feel to it as well. Now, even though the werewolves are the main danger from the beginning, and the reason for the paranoia that turns a lot of the human characters into threats as well, the actual werewolves on screen are fairly low. There's always the threat of them, and while you do see some things at certain points, including a young child werewolf that's kind of half transformed, that's very spooky looking, very cool practical effects there, not a lot of werewolves here. But once they do show up, they look great. They are practical effects. They're very cool. But by the end, I felt very satisfied with the incredibly unique werewolf film experience that this movie gave me. The Woman in Black from 1989. A young solicitor travels to a fog-shrouded village to settle the estate of a reclusive widow, only to encounter a vengeful spirit which haunts the nearby marshes. I think at this point, the remake for The Woman in Black from 2012 is a much more well-known movie, and I saw that one in theaters back when it came out, so I have a long history with it, and I've talked about it on this channel before, and a lot of you guys have said, no, the original is much, much better, and I didn't even know that was a remake, so I had to check out this original. It's actually a British TV movie, and it's very interesting to compare it to the remake, because actually, if you're just going for Gothic aesthetic vibes for your movie night, the remake is the better choice. It's a better looking movie, it's got more money behind it, and it's far more just Gothic to the extreme than this original is, which has a more realistic look to it. And unfortunately, seeing the remake first did hurt my experience with this one because the story, the plot developments are very similar. The remake does not deviate very much in just very small ways. But what I will say, the original is scarier, undoubtedly. There is nothing in the remake that actually scared me beyond just loving the vibes and the atmosphere, but this one has one jump scare that's truly one of the most terrifying jump scares I've ever seen in my life. Like, I physically jerked back, I gasped, I truly had a physical reaction. I felt chills all up and down my body. I swear I am not being hyperbolic. I am clearly describing the experience that I had with this jump scare, and there's just some really creepy imagery throughout, including the very ending that, God, the ending is so spooky. So for a genuinely scary movie night, the original is better. For just Gothic vibes and atmosphere, the remake is better. So take your pick, but I'm really glad I've seen both.
Where frightened people are held in the grip of unearthly horror.
The Brides of Dracula from 1960. A young teacher on her way to a position in Transylvania helps a young man escape the shackles his mother has put on him, unleashing the horrors of vampires once again. It's so interesting that this movie exists. It is the first sequel to Hammer's original Dracula film, Horror of Dracula, which is one of the best vampire films ever made, in my opinion. Probably put it at least top 3. And this is the sequel, and it doesn't actually have Dracula in it, despite having his name in the title. It makes the decision to, instead of follow Dracula on continued adventures, to follow Van Helsing, Peter Cushing's Van Helsing, as he faces a different vampire threat, the Baron Meinster, who might be kind of a disciple of Dracula and turns a lot of women into vampires, therefore the Brides of Dracula. But I love this. It's a strange choice, but it worked out phenomenally. I adore this movie. I think Peter Cushing is the ultimate Van Helsing, and this is his best performance as Van Helsing, even better than in the first one. He is in top form. David Peel as the Baron, though he cannot compare to Christopher Lee even slightly, is a very different kind of vampire, but has much more of a boyish, romantic charm to him and romances the leading lady other than just trying to kill her like Christopher Lee definitely would. The Gothic atmosphere is ever every bit as good, if not better, than any other Hammer Gothic film you could watch. The sets are beyond extravagant. They are incredibly beautiful, and it has one of my favorite sequences of vampires rising out of the grave that I've ever seen. Phenomenal movie. I could not love it more. The Tomb of Ligeia from 1964. A grieving widower remarries but finds himself tormented by the lingering presence of his dead wife, Ligeia, whose spirit may still possess him and his home. I've talked a lot on this channel about what a huge fan I am of Roger Corman's series of Edgar Allan Poe adaptations in the 60s, almost all starring Vincent Price. Even though Roger Corman's typically known for like very schlocky B-movies, these don't really feel like schlocky B-movies. Like, they're very beautifully well-made films, almost as good as the Hammer films, if not better in some cases. And this is one of my favorites. While a lot of them have kind of a haunted house feeling to them, this is the most explicitly, clearly a haunted house film, and it's excellent. Vincent Price actually gets to play a good guy here, although a very brooding and haunted man who finds love again in the form of Elizabeth Shepard, and they have like this genuinely great romance. It's great to see Vincent Price getting the chance to do that kind of role. I just love the story of her meeting this dark, brooding, gothic dude and being like, this is the man for me, let's get married right now. And that's basically what happens. But things do not work out so well because the ghost of his wife is definitely haunting this house. It has great atmosphere. It's very spooky. It's actually got more outdoor sequences than these films usually do, which in a graveyard particularly, which really add to the mood. Tomb of Ligeia is very good on a character level, on an aesthetic level, and on a spooky ghost and cat level. I love it.
What kind of animal could have done such a thing?
The Wolfman from 2010. Lawrence Talbot, an American man on a visit to Victorian England to make amends with his father, gets bitten by a werewolf. It's the remake of the Universal Monsters classic from 1941, and while that original is my favorite werewolf movie, and I would easily put it in my top 5 horror movies of all time, I am just a lunatic fanboy for the original The Wolfman. This remake is far more aesthetically gothic. It's going for that vibe way more than the original goes for it, and if you want a gothic horror experience, this is actually the one that I would recommend. The visuals are out of this world great. It really feels like director Joe Johnston was just trying to make the ultimate gothic werewolf movie ever made. And it feels like he did it. I mean, beyond just the settings, the architecture, the Romani camps of the gypsies that of course have to curse the Lawrence Talbot with werewolfism as in the original. The look of the werewolf is just beyond fantastic. Unfortunately, the transformations use too much CGI, and there's actually some behind the scenes drama about that involving Rick Baker. But once he is the werewolf, he looks incredible. The sequences of him attacking are so violent, vicious. I mean, they're like the ultimate vicious werewolf kill sequences ever put to screen. I genuinely love this movie. It is not perfect, but I will say if you think this movie is bad, and a lot of people do, check out the director's cut if you've never seen it. It sets up the characters far more in the beginning and gets you to care about them much more than in the theatrical. While the theatrical version disappointed me initially, once I saw that director's cut, I fell in love with this film.
And when did you first see and hear of such things?
The Innocents from 1961. A young governess of 2 children becomes convinced that the house and grounds are haunted by ghosts and that the children are still being possessed. This is set in Victorian England, and it is beautiful at creating that aesthetic. In fact, this might be the most beautifully shot haunted house film of all time. It's shot by cinematographer Freddie Francis, who actually directed a lot of Hammer and Amicus films like Dracula's Risen from the Grave and Tales from the Crypt, some of my favorites. And he just brought his A game to this. The settings, the black and white lighting, it is just out of this world gorgeous. Of course, it's based on the 1898 novella The Turn of the Screw, and has a great lead performance from Deborah Kerr as a woman possibly losing her mind or just discovering horrific ghostly happenings. And this film features one of my favorite ways to create a dread feeling out of ghosts, which is just seeing somebody standing far in the background that shouldn't be there, and just knowing in your gut that is not a person. that is a spirit of the dead, and it is just standing there watching me, and there's nothing I can do about it. That is what The Innocents excels at the most when it comes to scaring me, and it ends with an absolutely shocking ending that I almost can't believe they did in 1961, but I'm really glad they did.
Wanton witches find satanic satisfaction in an unholy alliance of evil. Satan is coming on the Devil's Wedding Night. Come along.
The Devil's Wedding Night from 1973. A scholar seeking a mystical ring linked to Dracula travels to a haunted castle in Transylvania, only to find his twin brother ensnared by a seductive vampire countess. That's right, folks. Sinners is not the first vampire movie to star one actor playing twin brothers. In this case, the brothers are played by Mark Damon, who's a little bit of a gothic horror legend, even though he doesn't usually get that kind of credit. He's also one of the leads in Black Sabbath and House of Usher, and he's lots of fun to watch here as both a total cad of a brother and the heroic one. And this is an Italian gothic vampire movie actually directed by Joe D'Amato that I've wanted to see for a long time because it stars Rosalba Neri, who I'm also a fan of in movies like The Devil's Lover and most particularly Lady Frankenstein. And here she gets to play an evil vampire and she relishes that role. And this is just vampire exploitation that tries to go to the max in blood, sleaze, Satanism, and all around gothic vibes. It's just kind of a kitchen sink gothic movie throwing everything at the screen. And it's totally standard. It doesn't try to reinvent any wheels. It's just trying to be a classic feeling gothic horror film in general. It's got the vibes you would expect, a lot of the imagery that you would expect. It just tries to be maximalist in all of those things. That's something that I really, really appreciate. Like the most memorable image this film's going to show you is something that I cannot show you in this video, but it is a nude Rosalba Neri rising out of blood in some kind of steaming cauldron while just some incredibly spooky music is blaring. And it's just so haunting and cool and just gothic to the extreme. The Devil's Wedding Night is certainly not a fascinating game changer, but it's a lot of fun and I definitely enjoyed myself.
Help me! Get away! Get away! Get away!
The Curse of the Werewolf from 1961. This is Hammer's only werewolf movie, but fortunately, it's a really good one. Although very unique and very strange, it begins with the conception of a child who grows up to be plagued with a werewolf curse as a result of his dark origins. It's about halfway through the movie before we're actually introduced to Oliver Reed, who is the star of this film as the werewolf, because yeah, it begins before he's even conceived and like goes through his entire origins. He's not a guy just bitten by a werewolf. It's this very long running curse. And I like that. It's very original. It's not just trying to be Hammer's version of the Wolfman. In fact, it's actually based on a book, The Werewolf of Paris, and it's one of the ultimate gothic horror werewolf movies. Oliver Reed is very well cast as a very intense, sweaty guy going through so much emotional turmoil. He's very passionately in love with a woman, but can't have her because of his werewolf curse. And while you don't actually get a lot of werewolf on screen here, which is usually the main complaint I always hear from people about this, I really do find the movie consistently interesting. It's different, it's unique, it's never boring, it's aesthetically stunning from start to finish. And when the werewolf shows up, he looks phenomenal, and everything he does is really satisfying. It really does satisfy as a werewolf movie, even with limited screen time.
Do we have to do this?
We've nowhere else to go. This is your home now.
Crimson Peak from 2015. A young writer marries a mysterious aristocrat and moves into his decaying remote mansion, where the walls bleed, spirits linger, and dark secrets rot beneath the surface. This is another Victorian England set film, and it's directed by Guillermo del Toro, and it really feels like del Toro was trying to make the ultimate gothic, spooky mansion movie, and he comes pretty close, at least in aesthetics. This film is gorgeous. It is insanely beautiful. He's really trying to capture that Hammer, Roger Corman, Poe kind of a feeling, and he succeeds. The way this mansion is set on a land of clay, it is decaying, falling apart, incredibly old, candle lit with autumn leaves blowing through the house every time the door gets opened. Man, I just love the vibes of this thing. But I also love it just as a movie. I think the cast is fantastic with Mia Wasikowska, Tom Hiddleston, Jessica Chastain. Everybody is so good. The story is genuinely intriguing. Our leading lady is an interesting character with agency, with past secrets she's trying to uncover, and just watching her in a billowing white nightgown holding a candelabra trying to find ghosts. It's so classic, right? It's just so quintessential. And beyond that, it is genuinely horrifying looking ghosts with very, very cool designs and absolutely bloody, gruesome murder. So it's a great Gothic romance, but it really delivers as a horror movie too. Ever since I first saw this in theaters, I have loved it. Crimson Peak is awesome.
Blood, the essence of the living dead.
The Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman from 1971. Two women researching ancient legends stumble upon the tomb of a bloodthirsty medieval countess, unknowingly resurrecting her as a vampire. Meanwhile, cursed werewolf Waldemar Daninsky battles his own dark nature as he tries to stop the undead queen. I'm sure regular viewers of this channel clicked on this video knowing there's gotta be a Paul Naschy movie, and bonus points if it's a Paul Naschy werewolf versus vampire movie, which he did sometimes, several times. And this is one of those, and it's one of my favorites. I love this movie. Now, interesting thing about it, Paul Naschy later remade this movie as The Night of the Werewolf in the 1980s. And while I actually think that film is a little bit better, and it actually has a more maximalist Gothic aesthetic to it than even this one does, even though it's very Gothic, I wanted to note this one because I think it works a little bit better on a story level, and it definitely has a better leading lady, a better romance to it, and it's a film that used to be completely absent from streaming, and it's not anymore. You can stream it now, at least on the Roku channel. I checked, it's in great quality. It's in a few other random streaming services as well, I believe, or you can get it on 4K from Vinegar Syndrome. I love a Paul Naschy Gothic horror movie. He just seems like a guy who's a big monster movie nerd and is just trying to make the ultimate monster movie every time he makes a film. That's what this one feels like. He's great as the werewolf. It's one of my favorite Wolfman designs ever on screen, and him fighting this very spooky vampire who has very creepy sequences of her in slow motion with her other vampire brides just gliding through to bite people and drink their blood. It's so good. So I love The Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman. The remake is also good. You can't go wrong with either one.
The Orphanage.
The Orphanage from 2007. A Spanish haunted house film about a woman who brings her family back to the orphanage that was her childhood home. But before long, her son starts to communicate with a new invisible friend, and then goes missing. This list is definitely not ranked, but I wanted to end it with the scariest film on the list, and in my opinion, the scariest haunted house film I've ever seen. Unlike most movies on the list, this is not a period piece, but has a very dark and Gothic atmosphere inside this old mansion that is an orphanage. The setting gives it such a gloomy and ominous look. It's directed by J.A. Bayona and produced by Guillermo del Toro, so it's Del Toro adjacent, but it is so masterfully directed. It is so scary, and just the story of a woman losing her son under completely unknown circumstances, not even knowing if he is alive or dead, is so harrowing and so brutal to watch. It has super creepy ghost child imagery, including this one kid with a bag over his head that is such an eerie visual. It's incredibly tense and has such a bold and beautiful ending. I was blown away by the ending of this film. It was not anything like what I expected, but man, it was so satisfying and just gave me this, wow, it's so good. If you've not seen The Orphanage, it's one of my favorite, it might be actually my favorite haunted house film. I couldn't love it more. Before I go, I just want to say thank you to my patrons who truly make this channel possible and allow me to spend as much time on it as I do. If anyone else wants to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout out to Diana W, Dulce Green, and Vinny Karpuska. You guys absolutely rule. If you want to check any of these movies out, I do have streaming options on the screen right now, but of course they are subject to change, and I have physical media links in the description, and using them does help support the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to let me know down in the comments what are some other spooky Gothic horror films that you recommend. I would love to hear them, especially if I haven't seen them, because I'm always looking for more to discover. Give a like and a subscribe if you haven't yet. Thank you so much. I will see you next time. Bye.